Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by my buddy Myron.
You're disappointed, buddy Myron. I did not get a Popeye sandwich, and now they're all gone.
Are you going to get in on this debate, or are you going to just kind of not so much?
No, they. I just learned on the internet they sold out of the sandwiches, like done. All they had, like all the company had. How bizarre is that? You sold all your chicken sandwiches.
That right there is a company who completely doubted themselves, because to underestimate enough that you completely run out of a product like that. That is a horrible, horrible thing.
Or you can
in my opinion.
Or you can overestimate how much people want your product, like some companies we know in the wrestling business.
That's a true story. I will give you that. But, just you never want to run out of anything.
No.
So, and that's something we're never going to run out of on the WWE, right? We're never going to run out of content. They just keep shoving more and shoving more and shoving more.
It's everywhere. We got another network show, man. We got another, not network, a TV show. We got in the ads, man. That ad for NXT on Raw was excellent. They put it over. They made it look good. It was sharp. Renee was pitching it hard. I love that. And I was also really happy to see the fact that the WWE is going to increase the salaries of the NXT people to get them back up, because they're on TV now. They're on the big time. They're no longer developmental talent. So that's going to be cool.
This is kind of, actually didn't even talk about this, but I was going to mention it to you because we had discussed this in the past about NXT. Triple H made the comment it was profitable. Clearly, when you run the numbers, it's not exactly profitable. But with this new $60 million, now I'm hearing the number $60 million, but it's 2 years. So it's actually $30 million per year for 2 years. Is the initial agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, they, the numbers that we had read was somewhere between 12 and 18 million. They were probably in the hole.
Yeah.
So this would bring them in. Now, granted, if they're going that positive, it's probably why they're going to spread a little wealth to some of their guys on the roster and kind of get them up. I know a lot of people complained about, they were roommating down in Orlando because. I know $80,000 a year sounds like a lot of money to some people, but when you're paying for your travel and all that stuff, it can pile up, and that's probably ultimately.
You better have a good accountant if you want any of that back. I like that they're doing that, but the talent is higher profile now. There's more people trying to get them. You have free agency, basically. Jericho says the WWE is not going to be releasing anybody from their contracts early, because they got to keep them. They got to retain them. Those two guys at LAX just left Impact, and everybody's, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? It's so exciting. We never had that before. If somebody left Impact, they were going to the WWE or back to the indie circuits. You didn't just have other higher up choices. It's awesome.
At least it's our options, right? There's high dollar options.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch Raw?
I did. I watched most of it. I didn't get through all of it, but that's not surprising, right? With as much as 3 hours can be.
Yeah, I can't watch the whole thing. I can't sit there for I can't sit anywhere for 3 hours. The Avengers movie was the only exception to that, but that's because it was super amazing for the whole 3 hours. WWE can't do that. They have to do 52 of those a year.
Backpedal a lot. You open this door, so I got to go down in there. Have you watched it since, like, at home?
No.
I have. I actually bought it on Apple, and had it like a week early, and we watched it.
Oh, well, what did you think about it from home?
It's still really good. Nothing could change in that department. It was still really pretty good.
That's awesome.
But anyway,
part again at the end. That kind of got me.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Sasha Banks, I'm sure, is where you were heading.
Yeah, kudos to Heyman for helping her out, because now she's somebody that's not quite as bland. She cut a heel promo.
Good one.
She took full responsibility for her pitching a fit and leaving after WrestleMania. She just dug in there, man. That was awesome. I love to see when people develop their characters like that. And Heyman on creative is a super asset to character development.
I 100% agree with you, and you could tell because Heyman's always been really good at like taking, real life and blurring it a little bit and putting it into storylines. That was always a big thing of his in ECW. He tried to do. And I was going to ask you about Raw, but one of your thoughts on it, where some of it seems to be. I know a lot of people, like 2.5 million people was the average. Whatever. We're not going to get into the numbers this week. But other than the Sasha Banks thing, I don't think anything that was like there wasn't a whole lot of big flashy sizzle on that stage. But I think they did some good groundwork stuff, and I'm wondering if that's Heyman's influence.
Yeah.
That they put some groundwork there that they can build on long term. And there's an old saying, sometimes you got to take 2 steps backwards to get 5 steps forward, And I'm wondering if that's where they did. The Ricochet and Drew McIntyre match was really good, and it solidified. If you believed Drew McIntyre was a big star, Ricochet advances out of that as a big star. And the tag team tournament, I know everybody's probably crapping on it, but as a whole, I think it did. It gives Ziggler new life.
Yeah,
with Bobby Roode, that they were both.
And he gives Roode new life because they had just buried him.
Well, I mean, I think at the heart of it, you're going to say that Bobby Roode's benefiting from the fact that they just don't want to see. They seemingly don't want to give up on Dolph Ziggler. And everybody goes, "Oh, they always do," but they always keep coming back and trying.
He's still on the roster, man. He's still on the roster. He's still getting paid. Is this the start of the Heyman era? Are the storylines he inherited played out, and these his new house? Is this the Heyman start?
I think probably so.
Because it looked like Monday was a launching point. I love the Becky Lynch promo. That's the thing with Becky. Becky's so believable, and she's engaged now to Seth, who is to me the least believable. Not that he's not talented, not that he's not skilled. He just does not instill a confidence that he's the man. He acts like he's the man, but he doesn't sell with.
He's engaged to the man.
Yeah, he's engaged to the man. So it's kind of shits on him. I love it. I love the fact that we're going to see some new stuff. I love the shows are hot. It's picking up. I want it back. I want wrestling again. I want to look forward to Raw, and I've looked forward to Raw a couple times lately, and I like that.
I know I saw a couple people basically poo-pooing on that Ziggler and Roode won this tag tournament, that it kind of crapped all over, the tag division because 2 guys who haven't been a team won this tag team turmoil. For one, okay, at least the tag teams got a lot of exposure on Raw.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They didn't crap on the whole division because in the grand scheme of things, the Usos weren't even involved in it, right?
Yeah.
The OC.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? I'm like, I think the meat and your potatoes of your division really didn't get crapped on.
Yeah, it was good. It got everybody exposure. It worked some story. It was good. I liked it. I can stand to see more of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to keep watching. How insane! We were talking about the whole thing with the WWE. Didn't they announce their podcast network?
They're like we're talking about. They're just convinced that we just don't get enough of the product. I mean, we just some kind of one where this one to me was a really big thing. It's really tough because we're going to begin this topic and end this topic with the same person's name. Conrad Thompson had made the statement, the idea or whatever, that he believes that there's really no more real big money to be made in podcasting. And the reason I started with that sentence is because do you think, especially in the grand scheme of things now, when the WWE launches a podcast network, I mean, who are you going to? I mean, who is your casual fan going to listen to?
They're going to listen to the big names. A lot of the big names can't carry a podcast, and the WWE. One thing we've learned from this is it's not a cash payment all the time. It's other things that help you. It's an exposure for your brand, so you sell more T-shirts. It's getting out to more shows. It's getting to talk with higher level people. A podcast sometimes is just an advertisement for yourself. You know, I think people miss out on that. And the WWE is perfectly poised. They're not going to make any money off the podcast. They don't care. They're going to get themselves more exposure. Maybe they'll get some ads.
It's another avenue for exposure. You are 100% correct. It becomes something else that you become more immersed in the product. Because like you said, they're going to run commercials for WWEshop.com. They're going to, you know, so forth and so on. I mean, it's like us, like you just said. The podcast, a lot of people are like, oh, well, where's the money? I'm like, you know, I'm talking about doing some podcast seminars and stuff for some people that have reached out, and I'm still doing those, by the way. You can email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com and ask about it if you're interested. But the money isn't the podcast. The money's never been a podcast. If you think you're going to do a podcast and you're going to get rich and you're going to get paid tons of money for doing it, just go ahead and stop now, because it's not happening. But you know, you have things like Pro Wrestling Tees, where, you know, where you can get, we've got shirts on there. You can go to Pro Wrestling Tees, search Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast, boom, you can find the shirts. Patreon.com, you can go to patreon.com, obviously /tapped out pod. Geez, I can't even say it right now. You know, sign up, get bonus stuff. These are kind of the things in your head, as far as, like I said, it's not about making a ton of money on a podcast, but it's
an advertisement for yourself. You have to sell yourself as your product on a podcast.
Well, and here's the kicker. Stephen Platinum just talked about how, you know, indie wrestlers that are like, oh, I make money. No, you don't. You don't make real money. Like, that's like us in podcasting.
Yeah.
We're like indie wrestlers. Like, yes, we make money, but if you broke it down to like paying your dues for the beginning time when we didn't make anything,
yeah,
paying our dues, and then going through the process of it, and then even the time we spend at shows and the time we, you know, a lot of people like to crap on people that, you know, that do the podcast and things like that. If you do the work and stuff like that, I don't crap on them. I don't necessarily listen to everything, but I'm just saying anyway, long story short, the money's not there. So if you're wanting to do a podcast, do it for the right reasons. That's all I'm going to say.
I do it because I love it.
Right.
I do it because it's very rewarding. I get so much fulfillment from people talking to me and recognizing me, and it feeds my ego for nothing else. Okay, it really makes me feel better. And speaking of selling your product, Wednesday the Labor Day sale at ProWrestlingTees.com goes in. Promo code Labor Day, save some money. I got this. It's not a Tapped Out shirt, but it's a Pro Wrestling Tees shirt. Put that in the cart with your Tapped Out order.
Absolutely, but
Labor Day.
Mm-hmm. And anyway, back to the WWE podcast thing. You know, I know they've signed on with this company to launch this thing. They're talking about it's going to feature some of their stars and the talents that they have that they can use. So we kind of kicked around some ideas of who's stars that could handle it. Like, because everybody likes to think that anybody can do a podcast. First of all, that's wrong. Just attest to you. We've heard a lot of them and said, hey, not everybody can do a podcast. Or should do one. But then you get into names like we were kind of going back and forth. We're like, to think of the pool that they can pull from. You know, Xavier Woods for some reason was the first name that came up to both of us.
Oh yeah, he's a natural. Natural.
Well, he does have the YouTube up, down, down, so I'm sure that's probably some of it. Austin seems to be kind of slowly working his way back into the fold. I mean, that's an easy gravy train of his.
Yep.
Put his podcast on there. Well, the Bellas are on the net. It's kind of weird. The Bellas do a podcast, and they're on the companies that they just signed to work with. So, could the Bellas be coming back as a podcast?
They'd be great for female talent. They are natural performers. You can say what you want to about the ring, but they know how to get out there and talk and do their business. Bring on all the female talent. Help the female talent get over more.
Mm-hmm. Like Total Divas isn't enough, right? I mean, it gives them another avenue.
Exactly.
One that I think you asked, or I can't remember, we were talking about, and the club, Gallows and Anderson, they did the Talking Shop, and they did some of those with Jericho, and they were hilarious. Now,
I agree.
Argumentatively, We're not sure what ratings they want on these podcasts. That one's a little bit on the more mature side. We talked about the Miz.
He'd be great.
Who?
Miz would be great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Who were some of the other ones you said you had?
I would listen to a Mick Foley podcast religiously. They've got two guys that had successful podcasts working for them right now with Bruce and Bischoff. Heyman would be an interesting character. There's a lot of guys. They've got the talent in house, and it's good for them.
Ryder and Hawkins already have one.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Booker T already has one.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they've got some, like I said, some people there. Oh, and we said, didn't we say Renee Young would be good?
Renee Young would be a natural host for that, or a show. She is more of a show host to me, not derogatory, than a wrestling commentator. She would do the pre-shows, the after shows, the personality profiles, some more backstage work. So that's one thing I could look forward to seeing. Charlie Caruso is also really good. She's going to be big in the business. I think if you were to look at people on the indie circuit, there are people on the indie circuit that I talk to that definitely. Brittany Nicole right there on the back wall. She would be a natural choice to bring somebody on like that. She would be a person who can talk, produce, work backstage. There's so much they could do with this network, and I hope they do, because like everybody that we listen to is now signed with a wrestling company. They signed Bruce. They've signed Eric.
I've got one. Hold on. I've got one that you religiously listen to that I think would be gold for them to sign.
Oh.
Studcast.
Definitely. If you want to talk old wrestling and you want to talk stories, I love that. And he has the power to get all the people on. Okay? He just had Dutch Mantel on the Super Studcast. Those shows are fascinating. I love every minute of it. And he actually is starting to weave his personal life in. So it explained to you the summer of 75 why the wrestling business in Knoxville wasn't good, because he was having personal issues in his marriage. He also was being sued for $100,000 for a fan that got injured in a bit. That makes you relate to these people. And why is he not in the Hall of Fame?
That's a huge one.
He's owned territories, okay? He's done everything. He's from the biggest family in wrestling history. He's done everything in the business. And he was the quintessential heel when I was a kid. He's had 10 world title, not every night on Raw world title match, 10 NWA world title matches as a challenger. That's a big deal. He worked Memphis. He's worked Japan, Australia, all over the place. He's a natural for the Hall of Fame. And he'd be a great thing for them because nobody talks like him. That's the amazing thing. He is such a good storyteller. But everybody, the bigger guys are getting signed to work in the business. Well, Cornette with MLW and NWA. Tony. Look what happened to Tony Schiavone.
We'll go there, man. Yeah, because, we were worried about all of the Conrad guys, now are in WWE. Let me ask you a silly question. I know they're talking about the podcasting, and they're still going to be able to keep their podcast. At some point, Conrad's got to get the call, right?
Well, yeah, you got to have Conrad, in my opinion, to be able to hold this network up, because he's a recognizable face in podcasting and name in podcasting. So if you were to hire Conrad, you bring all Conrad's goodwill. You don't have to build goodwill. You already have an innate audience that are in an audience attached that are going to come with him. And that's a lot better than having to try to build it on your own.
Well, and to me, there's a little more than that. And I'm totally reading between lines, and it doesn't mean anything. Trust me, they're doing fine. But him making the comment of there's no real money to be made in podcasting or whatever, there is if WWE signs you to a contract to do the podcast.
Exactly.
So,
big pills.
I'm just saying, you don't have to worry about sponsors. You don't have to worry about it. You're just kind of like, paycheck's coming. We cut a couple podcasts. And here's the thing, which we'll get to. You could do a Heyman ECW and then.
Yeah.
Because you'd have Bruce, you'd have Eric. Which brings us to Tony. I know we wanted to address that one.
Man.
What about Tony? What's he going to do? Well, apparently Tony's going to AEW apparently.
As full-time, multi-year contract broadcast team member, and helping produce live events. Okay. Do we also know what else Tony does? Tony is a commentator for MLW. Okay. Cornette was filling in for him when he had commitments with football and baseball. He's the producer of the UGA Football and Baseball Network. Okay. He is the play-by-play guy for the Gwinnett Stripers. If you don't know that, it's the county we're in. It is the minor league team, the AAA team for the Atlanta Braves. And he is their play-by-play guy. He's big. He's all over Atlanta. I don't think he works at Starbucks anymore. But the guy had like 87 million jobs. He's like those Jamaicans on the old In Living Color skit.
Yep. I got 37 jobs, man.
But he also had that show. He had the show with Conrad. So that's a lot of work that he's doing. Are they going to pull him away from that? Because bring him into the broadcast booth full time for a weekly show? Bring him to the desk?
The beauty of AEW versus the others is if their shows are going to be on Wednesdays. And if he's only doing weekly television and he's producing the thing, my biggest obstacles look at for the fact of like Saturday at All Out, he won't be there.
Nope.
Because George is playing. And they're actually at Vandy.
Vandy, so it'll be in Nashville, yes.
Yeah, friend of the show, Billy Pate's going to that game. So
my brother's alma mater and my alma mater.
Mm-hmm. So how he pulls this off, we don't know. Good luck. I mean, it's awesome.
I want the best for him, but I mean, dude, you ain't 20 years old anymore. You know, you're not. What was that thing about a shampoo, a water buffalo?
Well, the huge thing is though, if the money's there to get it while you can.
Yeah. Seeing him at the desk with Jim Ross, amazing. Now, I really don't think Tony will work with a guy in a mask. I can't see that happening.
Oh, I've listened to this past week's episode, and he's already he's gargling already. Yeah, he thinks he's going to be good.
He thinks
Excalibur's got. Oh yeah, yeah. The good thing about wearing a mask is he'll never age. It's like, you know, he'll be good. Yeah, he's really good. He likes him. Okay, so we'll just move on from that.
God, I mean, I'm a natural ass kisser, but Jesus Christ.
So
even my hypocrisy knows bounds. I mean,
I guess at some point, but here's one that's an interesting twist while we're on AEW. So obviously this past week, Jon Moxley's pulled from All Out due to MRSA in his elbow.
He got some Japanese germs.
Explain MRSA to me a little bit, because I mean, I just thought
methicillin-resistant staph aureus. Okay, MRSA. It is a drug that is resistant to, almost invulnerable to your typical antibiotics. It requires heavy-duty antibiotic therapy. It's the kind of thing you catch because it just hangs around and nothing can kill it. And it's an opportunistic infection. You get a cut or something, it just squeezes in there. And man, I mean, you have it in your nose right now.
I mean, I've heard, trust me, I've heard people that have had it in the past, and I always just thought, like, were you with a woman who was unclean?
Santa loved a woman who wasn't clean.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I always thought, something like that. No, I'm kidding. I did all that part for humor, folks, just so you know. I'm fully aware of what MRSA is. So Moxley's out.
Yeah, out of the big show. The big show, that's the show that's going to start their TV, basically.
You've been building to this show since Double or Nothing.
All in, the big show last year.
Well, Double or Nothing was there. That was where he comes and he gets involved in the match, and they've spiraled it. And of course, so he's not going to be there. Now, this is a twofold conversation from here that we wanted to have. So let's start with the first one, which is so since Jon Moxley's missing the show, does Tony Khan, Cody Rhodes, Bucks, Kenny, whomever's making the decision, because we don't know who's making that decision.
They need a big name. The biggest place.
Do they have to rethink letting their guys work Japan and indie shows? I mean, me personally, this is the example I've always said. If I sign you to a full-time deal and I'm paying you a ton of money, you work for me. people
Well,
like
you don't let
Vince is right.
You don't let people that sign contracts with us work on other podcasts. It's that simple. Okay, these guys are going to go out there and get hurt. You don't want basketball players playing pickup games in the park and getting hurt and not be able to play.
And it happens, and then companies are like, "Are you kidding me?" Teams are like, "Are you kidding me?"
Well, they're in the real sports business. It's not a popularity contest, and I have become convinced that Tony Khan was beat up on the playground as a kid, even though he was super rich. And the Bucks are always going in this because they're small. They're trying to become class favorite. They are trying to be the most popular guys. Now, Cody's off over. I fully believe Cody's off over here doing his best to be a legitimate wrestler and put on legitimate wrestling. But I think the Bucks have turned, and Tony Khan, this is a popularity contest. Okay, you can come work for us. Oh, you can go to Japan too. That's fine. That's cool. Yeah. You put your hands in your pocket and you're 4 foot tall, but we like you, so we'll sign you too. We'll give a job to all our friends. We'll let you go work anywhere you want to and catch MRSA. Oh, it's okay. We're friends. That's not how it works. They're in charge of a fortune running a business. They made this horrible decision, okay? I love the fact Cracker Barrel came on as a sponsor. But if you get a corporate sponsor that's a wholesome, down-home type company, and you pick a match to put them on, what match do you have them sponsor? Main event?
Oh, I was going to say, even if you wanted to, you could do the women's match, or you could do, to draw some attention to it.
Exactly. They put them on a 3-way. The Cracker Barrel Clash, okay, down home is Jimmy Havoc, Darby Allin, and Joey Janela. They're going to wrestle a garbage, hardcore match. There's going to be blood and staples and stupid stunts. And the people at Cracker Barrel be like, hold on, you gave our money to this? That's not how it's like, we love Cracker Barrel, so let's put them on our buddies' matches and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I'm sure Cracker Barrel's fully aware of what they're getting into, but are they?
I would firmly believe that when they see that match as a Cracker Barrel Clash and they see pictures of these guys laying on the ground bloody and stapled to stuff and doing stupid stunts, they're not going to want to do this anymore. And you have to understand this when you're running a business. It's not a popularity contest. You can't try to be the best with the boys. And you're going to have to say, you can't go work in Japan. You're on our contract now. You missed our biggest show, the show that's been built. We've been building to for a year. We brought you in at Double or Nothing and popped this and gave you tons of money. And now you can't work. Now,
injuries, to be fair, injuries could happen. He could have been injured at one of the summer shows. But okay. My argument to that would have been, but it would have been their show. Now, I fully understand part-timers, guys are not giving full
There's
schedules to.
Difference.
And guess what you're also not doing? You're also not taking that guy and putting him in a main event storyline. So just keep that in mind. So that was part one about should they be rethinking letting their top guys work other places. Because we've heard, Jericho can work in Japan and et cetera, share your opinions with us. You can, message us. You can email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. You can DM us or PM us at tappedoutpod on pretty much all social media and share your thoughts on there. Should they let guys work in other promotions and risk it all? We clearly gave you ours.
You hate Vince because Vince understands it's a business. Okay? And he doesn't care about being popular. He doesn't care about this stuff. He runs wrestling like a business, and he makes money at it. Eventually, something's going to have to happen, or this company is not going to last at this pace.
Yeah, and what that was part two of it. There's actually three now that I think about it. Part two of this is that how thin they are at the top.
Yes.
They've got to get some stories going on TV, and they've got to get some guys work to the top, because, with all due respect, Pac is not a main event guy.
Not yet, but I believe Pac could be built into a main event guy for this audience. He's not a WWE main event guy. He's a WrestleMania pre-show guy for WWE as Neville. I believe you could build him into a legitimate main event guy. It's going to take time and the right audience. And they've got the right audience, so all they need is time.
Here's the thing. Bruce says something a lot on their podcast. When you substitute, you have to upgrade or people are disappointed if you go down.
Yeah.
Again, all due respect to Pac, because I think he's a phenomenal performer, but he's not a main event guy, and he's not even somebody that's been in their picture at all.
Yeah. Because the visa problem.
Well, whatever it is. I mean, so he's been out of sight, out of mind so long. You're just throwing him in there. Would they not have been better off just throwing Kenny into the triple threat somehow?
That
Worked an angle
for the main event. Make it a triple threat. Much better choice than bringing in Pac. Even though I like Pac.
You could hold on. If you just need a match, you can move Kenny to the main event, so it's a triple threat for the title, and you can bring somebody or put Pac against somebody. So that'll fill you a slot. Somebody. I know they're all probably already involved. Some of those are good, but you could have brought somebody else and had Pac wrestle them, and at least you fill that slot. But hell, they like to work 30-minute matches anyway. The main event with a triple threat could have gone 45 minutes, and or whatever, and then that fill that match to slot if you don't want to go out and find somebody.
Quit trying to get all your shit in.
Okay. Oh, the other tidbit. This is the last one before we move on off of this. The other one, of course, was that the rumors were flying around that CM Punk obviously would be, could slide into this. CM Punk hasn't wrestled a match since Rumble of 2014, right?
That's what we confirmed earlier.
So, at some point, we've asked this 100 times, right? He doesn't. I mean, it comes off like he doesn't want to wrestle, no matter how much money's involved, because tons of money has been involved. I mean, he turned them down to be the cornerstone of AEW, Tony Khan.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, what are you going to do? Back a Brinks truck up to his house and dump like a couple $1 million for like a Taker Goldberg situation for Saudi Arabia to get him to come out and wrestle just to get a buzz? He doesn't want to wrestle. And to be honest with you, CM Punk has done something, and this is not popular, and I'm not doing it for, I'm gonna create a buzz here. CM Punk has done more for his legend by staying away and not coming back than ever, because everybody wants to. Lots of people want to see him come back, and I'm sitting there telling you, remember my statement of overrated doesn't mean you're not good.
Yep.
CM Punk is overrated.
Immensely overrated. He's not even that big a guy. He can work. Okay, he's a character guy. He incites emotion in people. I like that. I don't care for him. He's just never been somebody I was that fascinated with.
The mass hysteria for CM Punk's return, and I will say CM Punk is not in the top 10, maybe not top 15 all time.
I couldn't even put him in the top 20.
I like top 10. You can't argue with me. He's top 10. You could. We joke about it because it's so subjective, but I don't think I know he's not in my top 10. He's probably not in my top 15. I'd have to sit there and do the list. Most likely, he could get into the top 20. Maybe. But that would be a stretch. So if you disagree, send it to tappedoutpod@gmail.com or DM us at tappedoutpod. Is he in your top 10, and why?
Why do you want him so bad?
So, what's the appeal at this point of him not wanting to come back?
Is it just rejection? Is it the fact that he pissed Vince off?
CM Punk is the hot girl that won't go out with you, that you can't let go.
Yeah, you pine over for the rest of your life.
You should. Real, it can really happen, and you should get past it and move on to the next girl who really will love you. Speaking of girls who used to love us and but they're back and they won't go away, NWA.
Yes.
Not only is it coming back, dude, it's coming back home.
It's right down from. I know Techwood was empty, so I'm like, man, they're going to go to Techwood. I didn't think Georgia Public Broadcasting would have the tapings at their studio.
So the people who bring you Arthur and Clifford the Big Red Dog are going to be recording NWA TV tapings at wrestling.
That is so awesome, man. September 30th, October 1st, they're going to be taping. I'm going to be at work again. I don't know why this keeps happening. They're offering up VIP tickets that include like meet and greet and swag and stuff, which, man, I want that. See, you made me feel, NWA. You made me feel. Okay?
You make me feel. I'm sorry.
Now, I hope they don't sell the tickets all the time, because I think they're going to have trouble filling it. If you're gonna tape a lot, you're gonna need an audience there, and you're gonna have to give seats
Okay,
away.
but so they're saying they're doing 100 of those packages. Let me ask you a silly question. Does that mean they're only doing 100 seats in that little, like a little studio taping? Hey, that's about all they used to do for TBS tapings.
They'll probably do 100 to 200. That's what I think is ideal for a studio show, something like that. You can't go bigger. Probably smaller is a bad idea too. You need legitimate reactions. You're not going to be able to sell 100 tickets every time you tape, unless it's a big deal when you tape and things get out. But here's the thing. I could go down to the show and come back and tell you the spoilers. It's not like went to the show now, like when you go to an Impact taping and you post spoilers online. This is in Atlanta where we're going to be. Okay, where they're talking about is not far from where my mother and my brother live. I could go down there, watch tapings, stop by and have dinner with my family. It's so cool. Billy, please return my messages.
Yeah.
Okay? I have sent messages to y'all. I have sent Facebook posts. I just want to do something for the NWA. Billy, please return my messages. Also, eat a sandwich. Because I can give you some diet tips because you look rough, buddy. So just please return my messages.
It's the reverse diet, right?
Yeah.
Eat, brother, eat.
Like here, Billy, have some vitamins and a Gatorade.
Something. That's what I said. Eat something. But hey, before we go into our Georgia Indie talk, it's almost that time of the week. Always remember who's sponsoring this week. It's the Fight App, baby.
Yeah.
They're on a roll. The Fight App, man, it's got some of the hottest indie promotions in the country on there. And then, I mean, it's not even indie stuff. They carry Ring of Honor. They carry some of the stuff from overseas. You name it. Hey, if you're into MMA and all that kind of stuff, it's on there too, man. You can catch some stuff like that.
How about that deal they have for All Out for StarCast 3?
Well, that's passed. I just missed it. I was bummed out, but you can still get StarCast.
Oh.
You can still sign up for StarCast 3. Catch all because I hear the Punk thing's going to be on pay-per-view, traditional pay-per-view as well. But you can catch everything on the Fight App. And remember, man, check out the link that's on our website, tappedoutpod.com. It's you can click on that. It'll go to there, sign up for them. They'll kind of give us a little bit of a kickback there for helping them out. Yeah, we always like a little scratch, right? But yeah, check out the Fight App. Especially if you catch cool stuff like you said, Ring of Honor, etc. Our friends out at Rocky Mountain Pro. Shout out to Matt Yaden and the crew. Curtis Cole's still one of my favorite wrestlers, man.
I did not get to meet him. I've seen him wrestle quite a few times. One of the most decent people I know.
Yeah. So check out them over at the Fight App. But, man, hey, let's jump into some of that Georgia Indie talk that we've been itching to get to. So this past week, there was a little bit of a scuzzlebutt because, last week we discussed the awards on our show, who we kind of thought were our front runners on some stuff.
That was after listening to the Tipping Point was 2 weeks ago because it's taping tonight. They did their show. I was on it. We talked about who were in the running for the awards, like a pre-nomination show. And then we talked about who we thought was in it or were in it on our show last week. And apparently
there was a little bit of scuzzlebutt. Now, for one, the reason why you were on there, by the way, is we've been invited by Mr. Goodman, Larry, to be involved in this the awards this year to help kind of spread out some of that thought process, a little bit of a different opinion, a little bit of different viewpoint and some stuff like that. But I know some people were saying, hey, shouldn't it be the Greater Atlanta Awards because it is focused on there? Maybe. But what we are, and it's, James from Viral Pro, he was on Facebook and he's talking about it. I think he's got a legitimate argument in some degree. They do, and you know what? And by the way, we are coming. I gotta.
It's only 2 hours. I thought it was 3 from where I live. It's only 2, which is probably means it's a lot closer from where you live. Maybe an hour and 45 minutes. That's not bad. We drive an hour to go to most shows we go to now.
So we're definitely coming. Viral Pro, keep us in mind. We're gonna get down there and check you out. So keep
it's
the
mainly my work. It's mainly my work schedule.
Yeah, keep the red light on for me, man. I promise you, we're gonna get down there. We're booked through, so I'm not sure when their next show is. I think it's the 7th. That could be problematic because I think that is Southern Fried's next show as well. But, man, one of the things I said to him was, I know some people don't like people complaining about the awards. Now, complaining about their importance, their validity, and that kind of stuff, okay, that I don't think is something that's worthy of it. But now to say like, hey, we deserve more attention. Hey, you know what? Call yourself and get a little more attention to your name. You know, it helps get eyes on them. Whether they like it or not, it gets the eyes on them because the more they talk down at Viral Pro, the more I'm itching to get down there and check it out. And
Spinebuster, perfect example.
Absolutely.
They recognize that they need to get, because it doesn't, we're not talking, folks, it doesn't do you a damn bit of good to be named this of the year. But the boys that get named get more work. So if you have talent that are working for you, that are in the awards, and you can boost them up, they'll get more work. They'll get more exposure. And when people see them on your posters, what are they going to want to do?
Come work.
And they're going to want to come to your show.
Yep.
Posters are key.
Say it, brother. I'll let you say the punchline because I was going to be brutal about it.
A poster should make me want to come to your show. That is the purpose of a poster. Time, address, date, contact number,
ticket prices, something.
Ticket prices. I need to know where it is, what it is, when it is. And I need to be enticed by your poster. Go in a supermarket checkout, okay? Those magazines there are put together the same way a wrestling poster should be put together. You look at the cover and you want to buy it. They tell you on the cover what's going to be in the magazine or in the tabloid. And they put sizzle in there to make you want to buy it. It's just the way it works. That's the magazine checkout business.
And the worst thing, Myron?
What's that?
We have actually thought about going to shows, see the poster, and the poster has talked us out of going to shows.
Exactly.
If your poster's that bad, we will say we have actually not gone to some shows because of how bad a poster looks.
Okay. There are guys that can make your posters. If you can't make them, look, I'm dog shit at Photoshop. I sat here the other day trying so hard to Photoshop a mullet on William Tecumseh Sherman's head. Okay? It didn't happen. I can't do it. I can't Photoshop. There are guys that can't. David Ali. Look him up. He makes posters. Hey, you can pay him. He's a good guy and work on your show, too. Easy.
Well, that's what I was going to sit there and say. If David Ali's not been on your card, maybe you should book him on your card because he's getting so much better. He's becoming a name that you're used to seeing on posters. He could make your poster for you while he's at it.
Mm-hmm. Let him on your poster. Book him. The heat spot he did down there at Spinebuster that I was told about with him and Hold My Beer Hansen, where people were wanting to legit kill him. He's getting over as a heel at Southern Fried and Southern Honor. I'd look into seeing and booking him, and he'll do your poster. Easy enough, right there. That's an investment that's going to get people to want to see your show. That's your advertisement. It's like when I put a label on a bottle at work, and they take that pill bottle home, and if that label's on there crooked, that's their thought of me for the rest of the month. That dumbass put that label on there crooked because he didn't care.
Yep.
So you put out a poster, and people in the North Georgia that see your poster, or people in South Georgia that see these posters up here in North Georgia, that's their what they think of you. That until they go to your show, that's all they have to know you by. Put out good posters. Put people on there I want to see. Like I'll go to see Alan Angels at a show because I know he'll bring something to the show I like to watch. If I don't recognize the guys, I'm gonna be less likely. And
if the guy doesn't deserve to be on a poster, that will turn off of the talent.
If you look like you turned a nursing home loose and photoshopped him onto a poster, I'm not going to want to see that. Okay, it's just I don't want to see that show. I don't want to see shows where guys like me are on the poster because I'm that guy. Why would I want to go see me do something? I want to see somebody dynamic that I can pretend I am, like Superman or Batman or Spider-Man. Heroes. Make the posters interesting. Make them well and put them out there.
And like you said, man, there are companies out there that are doing good jobs. We obviously know, we hate to say it because everybody's going to go, oh, you're, Southern Honor, great posters. You know, Southern Fried's come a long way. There was a time when we were critical of their posters.
And I told David the first time they started getting those posters right, that poster's good, and every poster's been good since then.
Viral does a good job. There's lots of promotions that do a good job. We're not crapping on everybody, obviously, but you know, Viral's getting the name out there. Spinebusters, GPW's reached out. I mean, as far as you know, hey, they've got some new leadership going. Let's and
I'm interested to see what they're doing.
I'm absolutely interested. I will be at a show soon. I want to go see it, see what the changes they make, and hopefully, hey, there's going to be good things to say about it, and we'll get there rolling again. Unfortunately, this weekend there's not really any shows that we saw catching our eye, which is smart for Labor Day weekend. It was a terrible idea to run on the Labor Day weekend, run a show, but so
it might be a good weekend for a celebration for us, though.
You're 100% accurate, man. So before we get to our 3 on tap, hang around for that because we actually, there was so much stuff going on the last few weeks for us that literally we thought we missed the day, but it came up. Thank you, Facebook Memories. It actually popped up on on the 26th. So we're recording this on the 27th, folks, just so you want to know. So it was yesterday, but it'll be a couple days down the road if you're listening to us. 3 years, man, from the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast.
3 years.
3 years.
Wrestling's changed a lot in 3 years.
Hold on, before you get, because I know you got a list that you want to go. We don't need to, this is one of the things when people ask about podcasting, like, oh, what should we do? How to, we don't, I'm going to pull an Arn Anderson. You don't like to toot your own horn, but toot. 3 years into it, 600 plus episodes, I had 628 for, 29, God only knows. At this point, it's attrition, man. It's hanging in there and just doing it.
Just like I tell people when they ask about parenting, I'm like, the first rule of being a good parent is to show up. And the first rule of being a good podcaster is to show up and keep doing it. And
every week.
Now, we've taken weeks off for holidays before.
But lots of them we don't.
No. It's out there. You see me. You see me in a T-shirt. You see me online. You see these videos. You hear my voice. You associate me with somebody who knows about wrestling. I don't know much about wrestling, but you think I do because I keep doing it over and over and
we
over.
do. Don't sell yourself short. We do.
No, I'm no Platinum. I'm no Bill Behrens. I know what wrestling is like from a fan's perspective. That's my thing. I'm a fan. I know that wrestling. I don't know the inner workings of all that stuff, but I'm fascinated by it. And I do this because I love it.
And first of all, let's get in here because I think this is an important part. Anybody who's ever downloaded an episode, anybody who's ever bought, all the people that have ever bought our T-shirts, all the people that are, the Patreon members, we appreciate them wholeheartedly. They know, from guys, it's been everything. We've got a former co-host on our network who, he's a Patreon member. He's a patron over there, and that's Nathan Littman.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, come on, Nathan, you're the man. This cool shout outs. He knows we love him. But man, even to everybody who's ever done a show with us, for that matter. Lewis, we love you, Lewis. Lewis is doing his own thing now, but we still love him anyway. All the way back. Look, the wrestling dorks were doing a show. DDT Archives guys from years and years ago. Much love. Greg still hangs around. He's still in there. We're always in contact with him, still on Twitter, etc. Tons of love for him. So anybody who's ever sent a message, anybody who's ever DM'd us or whatever, they'll tell you, like, if you DM us, I'll respond.
Yeah.
I always got time for anybody who's willing to pay money, download, view a podcast, whatever. I generally will make time to at least, respond and answer their questions and stuff like that. I always try to. If I haven't, I apologize if I've missed one, but I promise you I really do try to answer them all. But
one time to try to compose a list of all our guests. And dude, it was like, I have not finished that list. It is so huge. All the people that have come on the show and given us your time and let us talk to you. Thank you. It's helped us all out, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And, some of the stuff that we were talking about, man, people that we've met, people that we've, you know, become people that we message or we text or we call or so
Friends.
forth, that we're just friends.
I have met so many wonderful friends and wonderful people in these 3 years. People that are a part of my life now on a daily basis. People I see, people that hug me when they see me in public. Y'all don't know how much y'all have meant to me. There have been times where I've been dealing with some extreme depression, and the people I've met in wrestling have done so much for me and made me feel so good about myself that I just can never repay you. Thank you.
I mean, I took a trip to Colorado to
Yeah.
Rocky Mountain Pro with my daughter. That was an awesome experience. You know, Matt, Curtis, all the guys that were out there, Mario Vanger, all of them. You know, I completely appreciate all the hospitality they gave me. Think about this, dude. I've gotten calls and texts from Austin Idol from the show. Tommy Rich knows who we are. Wherever we see him, he recognizes us. And everybody's like, probably like, what's about, dude? To 8-year-old Nick, it's huge. It's huge.
I can't even talk like Tommy. I mean,
And dude,
man.
I met Chris Jericho and David Arquette through the podcast. How nuts is that? You know, and like you said, even down to, you know, we're talking about the people that we've known and that, you know, I call them the Allens when I'm talking to my wife, Tucker and Angels. You know, great. I mean, I consider them friends. Even, you know, I still occasionally DM message or whatever. O'Shea killing it out in, you know, in the Ring of Honor dojo. He's still working, doing his hard work. I feel super proud of him because I called him. I think he was going to be somebody, you know, down the road. This was 2 years ago. And I felt like, hey, I mean, again, not to toot my own horn, but I saw something in O'Shea Edwards 2 years ago that I was like, dude's going to make it. And it was probably the hustle. It's probably the drive that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, this is going to bring us to our 3 on tap, because one of the things we were talking about was who is your top 3 for different reasons that you've met, that you've interviewed, all that, whatever, on the podcast in the last 3 years. Rule number 1, by the way, this is when it's something like, you know, top 10 wrestlers in Georgia or top 3 wrestlers in Georgia. We know we're going to have duplicates because you kind of have to. I mean, because literally we knew who the number 1 wrestler in Georgia was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but on this one, when it's so opinionated like this, we're like, okay, you can't duplicate. So we have shared our list with each other, so we don't have the same people on them. So, like, I know there's somebody on your list that it would be on my list, but you took him first. So, we'll talk about it. So I'll let you start with your number 3.
Well, my number 3 is that person, and it's also 2 other people. I met Ron Fuller and talked to him. I spent a good deal of time meeting and talking to Dr. Tom Pritchard, and I spent time talking to Bob Armstrong because of this show. And that's been a wonderful experience. Those were my childhood wrestlers. Of all the people I've met, those are the 3, and I'm going to count that as 1 because that's an experience for me. I met my childhood. There's a couple of guys left that I still want to meet, but those 3 guys were my childhood, and my memory is meeting my childhood and them being nice to me.
Absolutely. Mine are not in order, by the way, because I wrote them down, so it's going to kind of be awkward. So number 3, no one was seeing this one coming, but my first one I'm going to give you is Gary Lamb.
Yeah.
For many, many reasons. People he's introduced us to, stuff we've been involved with, and whatever. And the main reason's personal. He knows I love Gary Lamb. Everybody that I've talked to in the last week was like, how did you know that guy? Because he crushed it. I'll say it. So Gary performed my father's funeral. But this is going to be over a week ago by the time this episode airs. And I mean, people literally have asked me, how did you meet that guy? Because that's the guy we want to do our funeral. And I mean, but so for him to do a favor like that, just meeting him through wrestling, as silly as that sounds, he'll always be on my list.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And he drove across the other side of Atlanta to come do that.
Yeah.
And he was the one that you called. I mean, he was in a situation where you needed somebody, and you let Gary know, and he came over there and done that. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
It's bigger than wrestling, so that's why he's on my list. So who do you got your next one?
My next one was when we went over to Mississippi for the Great Southern Eight, and it was O'Shea and Ray Fury in the match, and they did a false finish and like restarted the match, and I jumped up out of my chair, pissed off, like I was 12 years old again. I don't jump up, folks. If you've ever seen me get up and down out of a chair, I don't jump up. But I jumped off madder than hell. They worked me, and I was so happy. That was awesome. It was a great show, but that right there, when you get me like that, there's not many times that happens, and I really, really enjoyed that. Okay, what's your number?
I'm going with a friend of ours. You couldn't make it. Billy Pate, friend of the show, made the drive with me up to Myrtle Beach when Tommy Rich opened his school, which is where we met Tommy Rich and Austin Idol. I had interviewed Tommy promoting the school before we went up there. So he recognized the name when we got there but we never actually met until we were there. But the time we spent that day with Austin Idol and Tommy Rich, again, 6-year-old, 8-year-old, Nick and Billy got to hang out for a couple hours with those guys. And it was just insane. And like I said, now we've walked into shows, and Tommy, WrestleCade, we walked into that show that we did over in, was it Covington?
No, that show was in Carrollton.
Carrollton. I had the wrong city, yeah. But same thing. Tommy jumps up, man, it's my tapped out guys, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, Austin Idol reaching out to me, talking some stuff, man. Look, it again, if you're a fan, if you're not a old school fan, that means probably not much of anything to anybody, right? But if you're a true wrestling fan, you'll know what that means. And that was super cool for me. So what's your last one?
My last one is May 27th, 2017. We went to our first independent wrestling show together as the podcast. It was a Southern Fried show in Covington, and it probably wasn't the greatest show on earth. But I got to meet a lot of people that would become very important to me later in my wrestling podcasting businesses. We met Charles Ange. No, take it back. Charles was not there. Mm-mm. But it led us to meet Charles later. You met Austin Theory at the next show. Mm-hmm. The show after that. I spent a lot of time. I saw Drew Blood for the first time. I got to meet Terry Lawler, who was hugely important. And it really just stirred my passion for independent wrestling. And to the point now where we go to North Carolina. We've been to Mississippi. We've been to Tennessee. You've been to Colorado for indie wrestling. And that's just something I enjoy so much. And it is such a good part of my life right now. And that all started then. And the people that performed on shows that I've gone to, thank you. Thank you for the time you've given me, the ability to forget about things that are bothering me. And that show's the one that started it.
Yep. Last one to come out of mine is I honestly could not really justify this list if I didn't have this on here. Gary, on my list already, introduced me to Chris Jericho. I mean, arguably the biggest star, in wrestling. He was the hottest free agent. He signs with AEW. I mean, he's done it all. He was, all the way from Mexico, Japan, ECW run, and his WCW run, and his WWE run. Now he's, Japan again, New Japan, and then now he's AEW. I've made arguments for people that Chris Jericho could easily argue that he's on the Mount Rushmore now of pro wrestling. And when I got to meet him, he was as nice as can be to me. Now, granted, it would be because somebody introduced me to him. I don't know, but I'm just telling everybody I've ever had any conversations with about it since, he didn't have to be as nice as he was. Told funny stories, was super cool with me. Arguably, as far as the biggest star I've ever met, as far as what most people would recognize, it's Chris Jericho. And I mean, and that partially goes back to why Gary Lamb's on the list. But so if I didn't put him on the list, obviously everybody would look at, that doesn't, that list is bogus. And you think about it, I didn't even mention the fact that Gary introduced me to David Arquette.
No.
So, but Chris Jericho's obviously my top on my list. So, so that's my three, man. That's our three on tap. So,
it's been a bit of a tear-filled anniversary episode, and I want to thank you, Nick, for this podcast experience. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being along for the ride, man. And we appreciate all you guys being along for the ride. People subscribing to us on places like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, blah, blah, blah. Everywhere you can find a podcast, we're there. It's that simple. Just search us, Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. We'll come up. Also, man, the ones that we really want to show some love to over at Patreon, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. The people that are putting down their, hard-earned money, we greatly appreciate it. We put up some new stuff. I put up a new list last week. We're going to start doing more stuff like that for our Patreon members, so definitely check it out. And there's certain tiers levels. If you sign up for a high enough level, you can actually request show topics. You can even get a guest spot sometimes on some of those. Just have to dig in there, get free swag. There's shirts you can get, all that good stuff. And that is at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Any feedback we always welcome. It's something we've always done. Is you can always email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. DM us at tappedoutpod. You can always Facebook message us as well there. And this video thing's been new to us.
Yeah.
It's something we've kind of got into. Kind of got into it out of a request, to be honest with you. Our buddies over at Jarrett Parsons Wrestling Television.
On your Roku.
Pick up a Roku, plug it into your TV, find Jarrett Parsons Wrestling Television. We're there. It's nothing but good old school wrestling and us. Yep. The funny thing is I was just getting a praise from somebody about that. So I want to give out a shout out to our friend of the show. It's still real to me, man.
I talked to him the other day, too.
Yeah, he messaged me. I want to say it was Saturday, maybe?
Yeah, it was Saturday.
Saturday. He messaged me, told him we look forward to seeing him at WrestleCade. Dave, we haven't forgot you, buddy. We'll see you there. Get a drink at the bar.
Make it today, too.
That's the challenge, is make it today, too. And that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. We really appreciate over the last few years of, people we've met, that kind of stuff. And it's just all about camaraderie. We could sit here and try to name everybody, Jimmy Wrestling, Hoop, Jay-Z Flair. I mean, Rafe, all these guys that we've met, even that's just WrestleCade.
Yeah.
That's not even, like I said, all the other places we've met. We appreciate it. We didn't leave anybody out intentionally, guys. We would be here all night just doing a show about that. So thank you. We appreciate it. But man, that's all I've got, Myron. You got anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Well, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, man, what time is it?
Time to tap out.